to Corporate Cafecito, a podcast based on professional development, career growth, and respecting our cultural identity. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Corporate Cafecito, where we have cafecitos with really amazing and interesting Latins that are boosting, bolstering, making our community more visible. And Vanessa's back with us. Vanessa Arroyo, if you heard last time, Vanessa is a shoe designer. She owns her own footwear company. It was a very interesting way how she got there. I'm not going to tell you everything, but just to summarize, she studied fashion. She went to New York. When there, she wanted to pursue more footwear, so she went to León. Really got into it down there and launched Seres, which I thought was such a beautiful name for a company. I was like,
thank you.
I was trying to translate it to someone, and I was like, well, we say seres humanos for human beings. So seres means like beings, and it's very like, I'm like, so it's footwear for people.
Thank you for appreciating the name, because naming a company is one of the hardest things that you can possibly do. And I didn't want to create another namesake brand. Like, naming it after me, I'm sorry, I love it. It could be corny, and that's not what I'm creating. I want people to detach the person from the emotion that the brand gives them. So it took me a while, but you know what? It hit me one day. I was like, it's going to be Seres.
Yeah, no, I love it. You know, when I was going through starting Elevar, one of the things that I remembered was when I would go through like professional development, it would take me like 3 days to bounce back from some of the trainings, because they would like break us down to build you back up and then break you back down and build you back up. And I was like, no, you know what? I only go up. I'm like, that's it. So that's how I came up with the name Elevar.
So good.
Because I was like, it has to be something that means something to you.
Totally. Yeah.
So what did Seres mean to you?
So at the time, as I was mentioning, I was going through a lot of changes, and one of the biggest changes was my grandfather's passing. So the word seres espirituales, seres humanos, seres queridos, it kept coming up. And then I just had a moment where I was like, that's it. Like, I keep hearing this word. Why didn't I just think of it before? But it was like a light bulb. And, you know, it's a palindrome where you can spell it forwards, backwards, and then I wanted to just
what is that called again? A
palindrome?
Palindrome? It's like race car.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, Mom, I never knew. I always hear that word, and then I'm like, I forget how to say it.
Yeah, I'm like, hold on, let me say how to say it. But I didn't, when I came back to Chicago, I really felt so out of place. I felt like so not at home. And I probably had like 2 or 3 friends that I could really lean on at the time, and that I had known for a while. But I started telling them my idea, and then my friend was like, I'm going to introduce you to my homie who's a graphic designer. So I was talking to him, and he designed the logo, but it was so special because when you look at it, it's inspired by like Mesoamerican art. So people pick it up really quickly. It looks like an Aztec like hieroglyph, or like Mayan, like super like pre-Hispanic. But it's also a butterfly. And Vanessa, remember I was telling you that I love nature? Vanessa is a genus of butterflies. And I worked at a butterfly haven for a really long time. I think we all have like really like serendipitous moments where we know that nuestros seres queridos are talking to us. They appear as a butterfly. And there's the whole legend of Mictlan, you know, and the spirits coming back as butterflies, and the monarch and the significance. So we were talking about it, and then he designed the logo, and I don't know if you can tell the first time you look at it, but when you look at it again, it's a butterfly, and Seres is spelled in the wings. So
I'm going to have to go look at it again and like take it all in.
Yeah, so all of these creative things started like culminating, and I was like, that's it. This is it. Like, I'm going to do it. And then I was mentioning to you how important it is to have a solid team. Well, I know a lot of people in Mexico that are my age, and they've even inherited shoe factories, and but when it comes down to business, you need people who are like ready to partner with you.
Yes.
And even though there's just like ample opportunities out there, because I'm telling you, when you go to Leon, you're gonna run into a million people who work in footwear, and at all levels, whether they're zapateros or they're in an office and they're like distributing whatever. You're gonna run into people who work in the industry, but not everyone is on board. So, it took a minute. I worked with a lot of people. I'm a zapatera, so I make all of my samples. I make all of my protos. I make a lot of shoes that I wear that are not Seres shoes. I've made.
I look at your shoes. I'm like, did you make those?
I did. So actually, these are not. These are from the new collection. So these are part of the production.
Nice.
But I've made so many shoes that I wear, and they're a little bit more crazy and they're a little bit more out there. But there's a lot of capability, and you just need to hit it at the right time.
Yeah.
Like the opportunity it needs to like happen at the right moment.
We've talked about how I'm an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur. Yeah. So I think it's important if we focus a little bit on like what you have to do to establish a brand.
Yeah.
So, from the trademarking to the brand, you talked about the logo and getting that ready. So walk us through some of the steps and maybe some of the hurdles that went from when you started.
Okay.
Like
the whole thing. No.
Because you were saying someone fought you for the name.
Yeah, they did. It was like a jewelry company that's made in China.
You're like, how did you even hear about me?
I know. I know. And let me tell you, that was not cheap. Like making sure that I like got Seres trademarked so that I can use it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't cheap. So yeah, like starting a business requires a lot of money. And I'm sure, there's a lot of other businesses that have like, a lot less of like startup costs, but mine specifically, it was a lot of money. So it was basically like, do I come back to Chicago and reestablish my life like a normal person, like everyone else in my family? Or do I just like continue to be the person that I am and use up all of my savings to start this company? And that's what I did. And believe me, it has not been easy. It hasn't been easy. I've had the support of my seres queridos that have had my back when times get really rough. But I'm not giving up because I have a vision, and clearly, like, we did a 1-year anniversary and we've accomplished a lot. So now it's just like, now we're up and running. Now I'm getting the groove of this. Now I need to know what I need to focus on. And so, for example, say this is a fashion brand. I want to wholesale now. Just like, I honestly, seeing how the fashion industry operates, that's where my advice to anyone that is in the fashion industry and wants to start a clothing brand, work anywhere in the fashion industry, like, it can be in design, or it can be in production, or it can be in that, but get as much experience as you can, because if your goal is to have your own fashion brand, you need to understand how everything operates.
Right. And that's so important. When you talk about how expensive it was to start your company, I had a trucking company for 5 years. I just closed it in September of 23. And I remember like the first couple months, like I had put money aside and I was like, okay, this is for that. And I'm going to use it. And it's flagged. And then we launched in May of 2019. Or May of 2019 or March of 2019. Yeah. And the money went right away. So then I was like, oh my God, what do I do? And I was like, okay, I'm going to close my 401k because I need the money to get this up and running.
Yeah.
At the time, and one of the things I learned is you have 60 days to deposit that money back so you don't get the penalties. You should not do it often. My accountant tells me to stop.
Okay.
And not do that ever again.
Yeah, don't.
But if you take that money out, you have 60 days to put it back in. And you could call it a rollover, which was something I learned. Right? But I was like, I need to cover payroll, and I don't have money to cover payroll.
Yeah.
And so I think once you're starting and as an entrepreneur, you have to make really big decisions.
You do.
to be like, okay, I have to keep this company afloat, and this is how I do it.
Yeah.
So that was one of my like wake up moments where I was like, oh my God, whatever I thought I had saved for it, not enough.
Right. No, always add tax.
Yeah.
Like, and also it's like you have to frame things in a way where you kind of like reconciliate your relationship with money, because a lot of us probably don't have a healthy one with it. So even just doing something like that is scary.
Yeah.
And what can I tell you? You know, it's something you have to overcome. I've always been financially responsible because that's just how I was raised. My parents worked a lot, and they have a really like good work ethic. So that, like a lot of Mexican families, so that's fine. But and I always had savings, but it's just like scary. It's like, what am I gonna do with these savings?
Yeah, now it's all gone.
Now it's all gone.
Yeah,
and
now,
and you know what? I had to just let that go because, okay, so for the first collection, we're investing this much money. You're gonna make it back.
Yeah.
Like, don't freak out. You're gonna make it back. But then when you make it back, you're gonna have to recycle it again.
Then that money's not yours either.
Yeah, exactly. So it's an energy exchange, and then just framing it like that, getting comfortable with money, that it comes and it goes, and when it goes, you can just make some more.
Right.
Find a way to make more.
Oh, my dad would always tell us that growing up. He would say, "Si quieren más cosas, consigan más dinero." Like, make more money.
Yeah.
And so I always took that. I was like, yeah, I need this. And so, you talked earlier about like working in New York and still having a part-time. I had 2 jobs till I moved to Texas, which would have been when I was like 26.
Yeah.
And I always had like, bartended on weekends or waitress or did this and, like not giving up. And I always tell people, like, I felt like the day I made it was the day when I was like, I'm not gonna take this cash job today.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I'm gonna take this time for myself.
It's a big accomplishment.
But when you open up your own company, right, you have to now take into account lawyers.
Yeah.
Right? Your lawyers that protected your brand,
exactly.
or that write up your contracts.
Your accountant. You need a good accountant. Don't play with that,
Yes.
Like, seriously, don't play with that. Get yourself an accountant. That's probably, one of the better things that I spend my expenses. And then if you're in a creative field, I have people to pay because my friends, they're not going to work for free. Their time is money, just like mine is. No one's going to tell me, make me a pair of shoes and just make them for me for free.
How does it work for like the intellectual property of like your design?
Yeah, so I actually have everything registered in Mexico too.
Oh, nice.
Because I know that I don't want anyone out there stealing my things. Let's talk a little bit about production.
Yeah.
So I work with artisans. I know that when I knew from the very start that I wanted to create something very special. And there's a lot of just inequalities, like things that happen in fashion, just like it's like any other industry. There's factories that are making items. So all of the labor laws that are just like not followed, and the abuse and all of that, workers' rights, that happens in every industry. So I knew that I didn't want to create that in fashion. So to put it out there, I want this, like, I created Seres because I wanted a woman-owned and operated footwear company. There's a lot of men who are the people who run the fashion companies, and that just kind of gives that, it's just something that is out there. I mean, you go to the store and you see Michael Kors, like Steve Madden, like these are all male names for women's footwear. Like, I wanted to create something that was the opposite. Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
So
my shoes are not very name brands, so I didn't think about it. But yeah, you're
like,
right.
This is gonna be like the complete opposite. We're gonna source sustainable materials. We're gonna make sure that all of the artisans, the zapateros, that they get paid fair wages. Yeah. I'm gonna work with people who only work under these rules. So the materials that we have, this is just really where I advocate, like, fair trade. What people don't understand, so the first time that I went to Mexico in 2016, there was an influx of people who were looking for jobs because they were just sent back. They were displaced back because they were undocumented here. They needed work. So let's give these people jobs. Okay, but now the working conditions, you can't just be abusing them. You can't be exposing them to
Right.
chemicals, which happens all the time. Like, people need to understand how you tan leather. So when you're constantly exposed to these chemicals, you get bronchitis, you get skin disease, you get vitiligo, and after years and years, I mean, I watched my grandparents and my other family members get exposed to this. So I was like, we're gonna clean the chain, the production chain. Like, we're gonna get rid of all of that. I don't want these people handling any of those materials. There's no reason why they should be exposed to like chromium, which is a chemical that's in everything. Like, it's in our car seats. So our footwear is super raw and organic.
I love that.
And these are just things that people are slowly starting to find out that about us, but that's really what makes us different. A lot of this plays into the fact that it's social issues that I wanted to address, and I wanted to slowly change that, and I knew that I could from the inside out just because my experience allowed me to do that. It's something to take into consideration, like if you're creating a business, like what type of business model do you want it to follow?
I'm gonna switch our topic a
Yeah.
little bit, because one of the things that I admire about you is you're not just building your brand. You're also an educator helping other people start their brands too. And the group that you work with, BAM.
Yeah.
Like, talk to us about that, because I think one, it's a really beautiful message. But secondly, I think that they're learning, right? Like, you've been doing this for like 20 years. And because she did start when
Yeah,
she
I
was
did.
like 4. But you've been doing this for so long, and now they're benefiting from your experience, and you're
Yeah.
making other zapateros.
Yeah, and that, BAM is just one of them. There's several. Just wrapped one up with SBEV. I also work at the Chicago School of Shoemaking, where I just wrapped up a sandal making class. So a lot of these things, yes, I feel like I am also planting a seed in other people, letting them know that it's possible. It's up to them to continue to chase that, as you
Yeah.
can see, because it's been a long journey for me. So I'm not going to like snap my fingers and they're going to have their shoe brand. But what I am doing is showing them that it's possible. You just need a clear vision. And so they run with it. They run with it. All of these high school students, I just wrapped up that workshop with BAM, me and my collaborator, because believe me, it's a lot of kids. Like, you need to tag team this work. And I just got a message from the person who organized their little group, and he made a whole commercial for the sneakers that he made. And I was just like, yo, this is so creative. And so now, they have to do the homework to get all of their things going, but I don't mind sharing the knowledge. I'll tell you, like, if you can avoid the mistakes that I did, hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's part of our goal on the podcast.
Yeah.
Is here, we'll tell you everyone's stories so that,
Yeah.
take what benefits you and
Exactly.
leave what doesn't, and just follow your path.
Yeah.
But it's really about the journey. It's about like, how can you learn from the things that I did wrong?
Right.
So that you don't mess up.
Exactly.
And then get shocked. And then, we had this one guest, and he talked about like how he had started his own company and had so much anxiety, he went back to corporate. And then agarró valor otra vez, and now he's back at it again, starting his own company. And I'm like, that's good. It's important. Like, we have to know what we can do. And then when we're like, you know what, I need a pause, and I could go develop more skills by working at a fashion brand or going to corporate and whatnot, and then, go at it again.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I've never stopped working for corporate. I currently freelance, and I do all of this. I've been doing it for so long. This is just another extension of what I do. So I currently work as a freelancer, as a product developer and a designer for companies that are like at a corporate level.
Yeah.
So I never let that go. It's a way to
Pay the bills?
to fund your dream.
Yeah, you have
Yeah.
to. So you apply for like grants, right?
Yeah.
For your brand, and like how's that going? Or like what can we expect from Seres?
Well, okay, so we just actually wrapped up a grant that we received. It's been a crazy year since we launched. So we're like a year and some change, like a year and a month in on this. Oh my goodness, we've done so much. They used our shoes for a fashion week show.
Awesome.
Gentefina, which is also a Mexican American brand here in Chicago. Then my friend hit me back up and she was like, "Can you put your stuff in a showroom out here?" I was like, "Yes." We were talking about any excuse to go
like,
back.
Be right there.
Yeah, and so we've been doing, just growing that way. We got a grant to have a retail store, which we turned into also like a workspace to receive all of these students. Now that it's over, I need to buckle down. I'm going to lock in, work on Seres. My mission is to put this on store shelves. Like, It needs to be at Nordstrom. It needs to be at Saks. It needs to be next to all of these other names because this is not like a little project. This is like real footwear that is made. Like the people who make our shoes make other big brand names, and it's just a matter of time before we get up there
We become a real brand name.
Everything takes steps, but I'm patient. So, and I work hard. So that's what we want to do.
When you apply for a grant and you get it, they have a lot of stipulations, right?
Yes, they do.
And then you have to follow them. Like,
yes.
How does that work? Do you report back? Like, do they ask you? Like, how do you keep track of that? What?
So interesting because I was also like, grants. How does that work?
Yeah,
and
because I see a lot like for Latina businesses, for this and this, for women owned, for minority owned.
Right.
I've never applied for one because I always felt the process. I'm scared. I don't know how to do it. And so, yeah.
Me too. No. Well, it's interesting because there's like a lot of artist grants and Seres doesn't necessarily fall into that because it's also like a retail business. So like where exactly does this fall under? When did I apply? I applied literally like in January. So I saw this grant that was available for businesses who were affected by COVID. And I had mentioned to you that I had gotten, I was like in this transitional period where I got like stuck here. And I started teaching at the time, and my work, as soon as I started to teach footwear design and shoemaking, we had to like close. So Seres, in the process of all of that, was born. And so that is how I personally met the qualifications for this grant. So specifically, you're talking about the stipulations. That was mine. That was the case for mine, where I was teaching and I was teaching and my work got affected by it. And so, we applied for this grant. We got a storefront. We got a space. But, it's a whole job applying for grants.
It is. I always see like grant writer jobs, and I'm just like, oof.
I can't. And, like, I applied to a lot of them, and it's just like a no-go. So like right now I'm waiting on this grant that I applied for. I don't know if I'm gonna get it. It's just like, you know what? This is, do I have time to apply? If I don't, then that's fine.
Yeah.
The job's gonna get done. Right now, there's Fashion Week in Chicago. It got reintroduced after being gone for like over a decade. It's in October. Okay. So now there's like a whole lot of opportunity for people who are in the fashion industry to be a part of this. So cool. If anyone out there is hearing this and, it's not October yet, get connected with the mayors involved to some extent. So it really just depends on the category that you qualify for. So do a little bit of research, find out if you can participate in any of these happenings. Seres got nominated for a Rising Star Award in the footwear category. So, that's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. Great. Well, Vanessa, thank you.
Thank you.
I loved having you on. This is so good. If you do want to reach out to Vanessa, all of her information is going to be in the info section of the podcast. you could look her up. It's seresfootwear.com, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
I'm
right.
like, I feel like I've
Yeah.
got something in my basket right now. But look her up, support her. If you're in Chicago, go check her out, hopefully for Fashion
Yeah,
Week.
that's right.
And thank you for being here and
Thank
for
you so
sharing your
much.
story. This is beautiful, inspiring, and how beautiful to have like a brand that we could get behind and be like, yeah, those are our shoes.
Yeah, and if you guys ever want to catch me in action, I'm an open book.
Oh, cool. All right, we will.
I know. I do workshops also like at the Chicago School of Shoemaking. So people are asking me like, do you really know how to make shoes? Yeah, girl.
Yeah,
Like,
I do.
I know how to make shoes. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Much success.
Thank you so
and
much for
thanks
having us.
coming.
Thank you.
All right. Well, join us next time at Corporate Cafecito and bring your cafecito with us to share here and hear our stories. Have a good one.